Recently, I've been playing a lot of FNaF Fangames, and while scrolling through GameJolt and seeing a lot of fangames based on other franchises, it got me thinking. There are a lot of games and shows that could pair really well with the classic FNaF gameplay that don't have games made about them. So that's what I aim to do in this video. I'll be laying out my concepts for 3 FNaF fangames based on other games and shows that, to my knowledge, don't have games made in this style. Now, first I want to say that I'm not a game developer and I have no knowledge on anything relating to balancing or coding or whatever. So if you notice that some of the things I say in this video don't make any sense or wouldn't be possible, that's probably why. Also, if you are a game developer and any of these game concepts inspired you to actually make them, feel free to do so and let me know if you do, because I would love to see what people end up making with these concepts. And maybe I can be involved in the game making process? Anyways, with all that out of the way, let's get started with the first game on the list, that being Persona 3. Now, as far as I know, there aren't any FNaF fan games based on the Persona franchise, so as a D1 glazer for Persona, I had to make a game based on it. And I think Persona 3 is the perfect fit. First, I want to mention that I didn't really make a super coherent story for all the games that I'm going to talk about, as the main focus for this video is more so about the gameplay rather than the story. Also, I'll be changing some story elements from the originals to make these theoretical games make a little more sense. But with that out of the way, here's the story for the Persona 3 game. The game would start by showing the fight between Aigas and Death in Moonlight Bridge in 1999, and Death being sealed into a young Makoto Yuki. The game would take place in his family home where he lives alone after that day. I think it's likely that Makoto lived alone before transferring to Gekkoukan High, since there's never any implications that he lived with a guardian, extended family, or even in an orphanage. But of course, I could be wrong about this. Anyways, after that night, Makoto begins to experience the Dark Hour in his home and meets Pharos. He tells him that monsters are coming to hurt him and that he must defend himself until the Dark Hour ends. And these monsters are the Arcana shadows that serve as boss fights in the original game. And with that introduction, Night 1 would begin. The game would be very FNaF 4 inspired, since it takes place in a house. The map would look like this. Every night you start on your bed looking directly at your bedroom door. To your left, there's a closet. To your right, a window, and you can look behind you to check under your bed. You also have 2 main forms of defense. A flashlight with a limited battery, and a toy sword you can swing at the shadows. I know, very effective. I imagine you'd be able to use the flashlight with your left mouse click and the sword with the spacebar. Also, when going to the door, window, or closet, you can right click to keep them shut. Now that we have our location and defense mechanics out of the way, let's talk about each of the shadows. In this section, I'll be grouping up any shadows that have boss fights together in the original game into one and sort of combine their mechanics. I'll also be talking about each of them as they appear through the nights, so let's start with Night 1. In Night 1, 3 threats are active: Magician, Priestess, and Emperor/Empress. For Magician's mechanic, it will stay under your bed and hands will begin to form after some time. To get rid of it, you need to turn around and use your flashlight on it, similar to Nightmare Freddy in FNaF 4. Pretty simple mechanic all things considered. Next up is Priestess, and this one was a bit tough to come up with a mechanic, but here's what I came up with. Strange writing similar to the one seen on its body will appear on the bedroom. If the writing appears mostly to your front, it's at the door. If it appears to your left, it's at the closet, and if it's to the right, it's at the window. In all of these cases, all you have to do is shut the doors and that'll make it go away. And to end Night 1, Empress and Emperor will knock on your door when they're nearby. If Emperor appears, hit it with your sword. If Empress appears, shine your flashlight. So far, things are pretty simple, which makes sense, I mean, it is Night 1. But things are only gonna get more complicated from here. So let's kick off Night 2. During Night 2, Magician and Empress/Empress are active, and Hierophant/Lovers and Chariot/Justice are added. Hierophant will appear next to your closet. If you hear it making noise, you have to turn to it and hit it with your toy sword. Not doing this in time will summon Arcana Lovers, who will take the sword from you. For Chariot and Justice, you will hear the sound of a tank engine when they are nearby. If this sound is followed by fluttering, Justice and Chariot will split and Justice will have entered the closet. To get rid of it, you must shine your flashlight at it, and you'll also have to do the same to Chariot and the window. If no fluttering is heard, Justice will appear outside in its fused form and you must hit it with your sword. Considering the design of these 2 shadows, it was a lot more difficult to come up with a mechanic that would also work in a house setting, and this is the best that I could come up with. Going on, in Night 3, Hierophant, Priestess, and Magician are all active, with Hermit, Fortune, and Strength being added. Occasionally during the night, you'll hear a electric buzzing sound effect, meaning Hermit is about to attack. Now, Hermit wouldn't actually be able to kill you. Instead, when you hear the buzzing, don't use your flashlight, or it will double the rate at which your flashlight battery drains. As for Strength and Fortune, either of them will appear in front of your bed once per night. If Strength appears, all you have to do is ignore it. But if Fortune appears, you can hit it with your toy sword for a small chance to obtain one of the following benefits. It can either fully refill your flashlight battery, obtain a second life, lower the aggression of the shadows, or remove a shadow of your choice for the rest of the night. Or if you're really unlucky, you can die instantly. basically functioning similar to Rockstar Foxy and UCN. Moving on to night 4, Fortune, Strength, Emperor, Empress, Chariot, Justice, and Magician all appear. And Arcana Hangman appears as the last new threat added, with night 5 serving as a final test against all of the shadows. As for Hangman's mechanic, it's actually pretty simple. It can be seen lying down outside of the window, and when it gets too close, all you have to do is shine your flashlight at it to get rid of it. However, despite that being all of the major threats in the game, this game wouldn't end with a night 5, as there's still one more shadow left to talk about. In the final night, in classic FNaF 4 fashion, the only active threat during the night is Death. Death shares some mechanics with the other shadows, mainly Magician, except instead of hands appearing, the coffins that surround Thanatos will start stacking under your bed. Death will also let out a roar when it is ready to attack, either outside the window, at your door, or in the closet. This sound effect would pan depending on where it is attacking from. If it's in its clothed form, shine your flashlight at it. If it's not, shut the door. Same goes for the windows and closet. Its last method of attack has it appear in front of your bed. Whenever this happens, press the spacebar, which instead of swinging your sword, will let you pretend to fall asleep, and you'll have to keep holding down the spacebar until you hear the sound of Shane's signaling that he has left. Once the night is finished, a scripted event where Death tries to attack you will occur, but before it can kill you, the dark hour ends and Death disappears. And that's pretty much all I could come up with for this Persona 3 FNaF Fangame concept. It was very tough coming up with mechanics for all the shadows and make it make sense in a house setting, but I really tried my best. With 13 different threats to deal with, I can definitely see this getting a bit overwhelming, but that's kind of on me for wanting to include all the Arcana shadows, so sorry. Even still, I really like the ideas that I came up with. But if you have any better ideas or think I should have done something a little differently, comment down what you would have changed. Well, that was a lot, but that's just the first one. So let's go on with the next game on the list. Now, I'm sure there are plenty of Pokemon FNaF games out there, but I still wanted to throw my own hat in the ring since this is actually an idea that I've had in mind for a while. So here's the story I came up with. You would play as Cheryl, who is lost in Eterna Forest, and at some point you end up finding the old chateau. You enter the mansion and ask if anyone is home, but once you enter, the front door shuts and you're locked in. Scared out of your goddamn mind, you run into one of the rooms and find a flashlight, and this starts night 1. Like the previous game, this one is also very FNaF 4 inspired. Can you tell which one's my favorite? Here you would just have a flashlight to defend yourself with, and you'd be able to aim it with your mouth similar to Five Nights at Candy's 3. And this is what the map will look like. You'll start in the second room floor with a TV and are able to go downstairs to the entrance, which connects to the dining room / kitchen in front of you, the laundry room to your left, and the storage room to the right. The map isn't 100% accurate to the game, but that's to make the Pokemon's mechanic make more sense. Speaking of which, let's talk about them. In night 1, Miss Drevis and Rotom are the main threats that you'll have to deal with. Also, I don't know where to put this, but a fun idea I had is that the higher the Pokemon's AI level is, the more evolved they would become. A 2-stage evolution line would evolve at level 10, and a 3-stage line would evolve at 7 and 14. This would mainly just be a visual change, except for one of the Pokemon, which I'll get to later. I'll also be referring to each Pokemon by their evolved form from this point onwards, just to keep things simple. Here's what I came up with for Miss Magius' mechanic. Whenever you enter a new room, there's a chance that you hear its cry, meaning that it's ready to attack. If you do hear its cry, you have to find it in the room you're currently in and shine your flashlight to make it go away. If you leave the room without flashing it, Miss Magius will kill you. As for Rotom, I had a lot of fun making its mechanic, so here's what I came up with. It'll be able to possess house appliances or the TV in the TV room. When Rotom haunts an appliance, you'll start to hear shaking sounds in the room it's currently in. You'll have to find and repeatedly click on the haunted appliance until you get rid of Rotom. You'll find Wash Rotom in the laundry room, Heat Rotom and Frost Rotom in the kitchen, and Fan Rotom and Mow Rotom in the storage room. If Rotom haunts the TV, Rotom will play its cry to alert you. All you have to do is watch Rotom on the TV until it disappears. Moving on to night 2, Dusk Noir is added to the roster. If it appears in the room that you're in, all you have to do is not point your flashlight at it. You can tell where it is by seeing its red body parts glow. This is the one I was referring to when I said the evolution change can make it more difficult, as Dusk Noir will take up more space on the screen than its pre-evolutions. Moving on to night 3, Gengar will start to appear. When Gengar appears, poisonous gas will start to fill the room, and you have to leave the room you're currently in before it's filled with gas. You would also be able to safely re-enter the room once you've left it. Now, the nights up to this point seem like they'd be pretty easy if I'm being honest, so let's take it up a notch. In night 4, Bayonet will start appearing. It'll scurry over to your current location, which you can tell from a running sound effect. If you don't leave the room fast enough, it'll steal your flashlight. But this doesn't mean that you're dead, since you can get it back by finding it in one of the adjacent rooms. It is random which room it will be in though, so if you can't find it quickly enough, you might end up getting killed by Miss Magius, so you'll probably be better off trying to evade Bayonet as much as possible. Bayonet is the last Pokemon added, making Night 5 the final test of skill as usual. All of the Pokemon's mechanics are simple on their own, but I think they come together pretty well when they're all active at once. But there's still one more thing I want to add, that being a post-night minigame. The minigame will take place within the cold regions of Mount Coronet. In the story, I'd have the minigames be explained as memories of the previous residents haunting the protagonist. In the minigame, you are stranded in the mountaintops facing a campfire waiting for help to arrive. To beat the night, you would need to complete certain tasks, such as setting up a tent, among other things. As the night goes on, you'll start to get colder, and you will need to face the campfire to stay warm. There are two threats in the minigame, Frostlass and Hisuian Zoroark. Why is Hisuian Zoroark in Modern Sinnoh? Cause he's awesome, that's why. Frostlass will attempt to put out your campfire, and to stop it, you need to keep lighting it up with some firewood and a lighter you can find near the campfire. If the campfire stays out for too long, Frostlass will kill you. As for Zoroark, it'll slowly sneak up on you from behind. When Zoroark appears right in front of you, turn around and put the campfire out to make it go away. I think having their mechanics work like this make it that much more stressful since dealing with one threat might potentially put you at risk of dying to the other one. And of course, in classic FNaF 4 style, completing the minigame will award you with 2 hours off of the next night. And that's everything I have to say about this Pokemon FNaF game. This was the one that I had the most fun coming up with, and it's also the one that I'm the proudest of. Now that that one's all sorted out, let's talk about the final game in this video. Metroid games, at least the 2D ones, have always had a level of fear in certain parts, like the SAX encounters in Metroid Fusion or the Emmy encounters in Metroid Dread. And I think using that sort of cosmic sci-fi horror would be a great fit for a FNaF style game. And in this case, I'll be making one partially based on Metroid Fusion. So to start, here's the story. The game takes place in the BSL Research Station's restricted laboratory, where you play as a Galactic Federation scientist conducting research on the cloned Metroids. However, one of the Omega Metroids breaks free from containment, causing the lab to go in lockdown. The now free Metroid attempts to break free the other Metroids in stasis, and you must now survive until a rescue team arrives. In this game, you will have access to a camera system like the first 3 games, and 2 doors to your left and right that drain power from the emergency power supply, like in FNaF 1. In the camera system and in the office, you'll also have access to a replica Ice Beam controlled with the mouse that, while not as powerful as the real Ice Beam, can help you keep the Metroids at bay. Using the Ice Beam, however, has a somewhat lengthy cooldown so that you don't end up using it all the time with no risk. Also, here's the map that I came up with. Like the Pokemon one, it's not 100% accurate to the original, and also looks kinda bad if I'm being honest, but hey, it gets the idea across, right? Now, in this game, instead of taking place over 5 nights, each night is actually 1 hour, meaning the game takes place over just 1 day. So let's go through what each hour has to offer. In the first hour, the main threats you'll deal with are Metroid infants and larvae. Occasionally, Metroid infants will appear inside your office, even if your doors are closed, and you'll need to shoot the Metroid infants with the Ice Beam before too many of them appear. The Metroid larvae will slowly make their way into your office and appear in front of either of your doors. You can either shoot them with the Ice Beam or simply close the door until you hear it leave. Simple mechanic, I know, but their life-sucking ability doesn't really make for a cool game mechanic when the whole point is to keep them away. In the second hour, Alpha Metroids will begin appearing. They will, like the larvae, attempt to enter through your doors, except you'll need to use the cameras to tell what side they're coming from. However, unlike the larvae, they will actively ram into the door when closed until they get tired and leave, lowering the durability of your doors. And if a door gets broken down, any Metroids on that side can freely enter and kill you. This is also why I allowed for the Ice Beam to be able to get rid of the larvae, just so that if one of your doors breaks down, at the very least you won't die to a Metroid larva. In the third hour, Gamma Metroids start attacking. Gamma Metroids will try to damage the lab's power supply in the server room with their electric breath instead of attacking you directly. You'll have to use the camera's Ice Beam to keep them out of the server room. If they manage to damage your power supply, the power will go off immediately, and during the power outage, Metroids can come into your office freely as you can't close the doors. In the fourth hour, Zeta Metroids will become active. Zeta Metroids will work similarly to Foxy in FNaF 1. They'll start off idle in the evolution research room, and after some time, will begin priming itself for an attack. To prevent them from attacking, look at it on the cameras, which will completely halt its progress. If you see that it's gone from the room, you'll hear a running sound effect that pans to the direction it's coming from. You'll have to quickly close the door it's heading to, which will cause it to bash and damage the door. And finally, in the fifth hour, Omega Metroids will start attacking. Omega Metroids, like the Alpha, will try to enter your office through your doors, and you'll need to use the cameras to tell where they are. However, when an Omega Metroid attacks, you must let it enter your office and shoot it with the Ice Beam, as closing the doors on them will cause them to instantly break down the door, allowing for easy access for other Metroids. So, those are my ideas for 3 FNaF fan games based on other franchises. If you like these ideas or think some things should be changed, let me know in the comments. This video was really fun to make, and I might consider making another one if you guys like this one. Also, like I mentioned at the start, if any of these ideas inspire you to make them real, let me know if you do, because I would love to see what people end up making. And if you need someone to make music for it, well, let's just say I know a guy. That guy being me. Anyways, that's all I have to say for now. If you liked the video, like, comment, subscribe, you know the drill. And I'll see you all in the next video.